This video contains spoilers for the entirety of Shadow of the Colossus and partial spoilers for Eco. The world of Shadow of the Colossus can feel so empty sometimes. Long stretches are just you and your horse in a barren world, but there's someone else here with you. A formless god telling you exactly what to do. No, not Dormin, the literal formless god telling you what to do. I'm talking about Team Eco, the developers of Shadow of the Colossus. They know exactly how to use your curiosity to guide you through playing so as to best feel their artistic intentions in the themes that are presented, which cover subjects like manipulation, obsession, cycles of violence, and more. All of this is brilliantly presented with an ambiguous take on who's even good or evil in the story that allows for countless interpretations of the events. Team Eco uses thematically relevant gameplay, camera manipulation, stylistic choices, mysterious storytelling, and much more to make you experience the rich story that's told in a way only games can. You may first notice Team Eco's guidance when they guide the camera in key moments, leading your eye to make you feel small in this grand world or to spark intrigue of what may be possible to explore. Your curiosity and attentiveness to this world that Team Eco is guiding you through is often rewarded, whether it be rewarding your natural curiosity to interact with the world with fun secrets, or more importantly, rewarding you by guiding you toward the correct path in gameplay. When playing for the first time, I felt like I was in the palm of Team Eco's hand. Those examples and many more lull you into a state where you trust them to guide you completely. Team Eco then uses that trust to put you on a path that, later on, you might start to regret and question the further you progress. This dynamic is crucial because the developers want to teach you thematic lessons firsthand through gameplay so it resonates with you harder. Wander's simple end goal of saving Mono is similar to what your end goal would be in a game like Mario or Zelda. This deceptive simplicity leads you to not question the means to which you are achieving this, because if you've played games like that before, you know that you're typically unquestionably the hero, despite the fact that you may have killed many things to get to your end goal. However, Shadow of the Colossus is not your typical video game, and the Colossus which you're told are your foes are not your typical video game enemies either. A good first example of this is that when you try to take on a Colossus, music with a tinge of apprehension and fear plays. Although this music can be exhilarating, it also evokes a sense of dread for the daunting giant foe in front of you. You really feel small as you try to scale the massive Colossus, struggling and stumbling through gameplay that sometimes feels like this. Although once you get your bearings, much more heroic sounding music plays as you start to feel a rush like no other game can give you. That previous feeling of dread quickly melts away as you're lulled into a sense of triumph while the bombastic music soars and you take down the Colossus. That high doesn't last long though, because once you defeat the Colossus, the music turns melancholic and tragic, and the creature that seemed so daunting at first crumbles before you. Dark tendrils start to pour out of it and they inevitably overtake you, leaving you feeling like you might have just died or did something wrong instead of feeling like you just achieved something great. This is completely antithetical to most games where you get a congratulatory tune post-battle that makes you feel good about what you just did. The music and atmosphere at the end of a battle here will make you feel confused at first and maybe even make you feel regret, but just as you're starting to feel these things, you're ripped back to the starting area and told of your next foe. So just as you might be starting to question yourself, the game tries to redirect your attention back to thinking this is your typical type of video game where you're assigned quests to conquer without question. This is where the repetition of the gameplay starts to affect your perception of the story being told. After each Colossus you defeat, you're reassured of your goal. Your view is pointed right at Mono's lifeless body, reminding you of what you're fighting for. This will be the last image in your mind right before you set out to take down what Dormin always refers to as your next foe. However, the more Colossi you take down, the more downtime you spend traveling and contemplating your actions. You start to notice how some Colossus won't even acknowledge you until you attack them, or that others express genuine fear. Your camera is often pointed to face the Colossus right before you kill them, and all of them cry out in pain as you take them down. Near the end of the game, when you go to take down the few Colossi left, you're subtly guided on your way to see the corpses of the Colossi you slayed previously, their bodies decaying into dust in the barren land. Team Ico wants to reinforce your empathy for the Colossi in ways that play to the strength of an interactive medium. This was something the director Fumito Ueda saw as a strength that video games had over other mediums.
表現をできるメディアっていうのはいくつかありますよね。その映画であったり小説であったり、音楽もそうなのかもしれないですけど、そのビデオゲームが他のその物語表現ができるメディアと比較して、どこが優れてるかというと、やっぱりその感情移入をさせて。
As you start to feel this empathy for the Colossi creeping in, the somber music playing before you attack them now starts to sound less like your fear or hesitation and more like your regret for what you're about to do. The more you repeat this cycle, the worse you might feel about it. You might even start to notice your character's body progressively deteriorating with each Colossus you defeat. This visually cues you into the fact that something about defeating the Colossus is taking away your humanity in some way. You do gain health and stamina upgrades after each Colossus you defeat, making you more powerful. However, because your appearance gets worse and worse the more powerful you become, it makes something feel wrong about this power that you're gaining. You find out at the end of the game that the reason for this is that all the Colossus you defeated, whose very essences have entered your body, were all parts of Dormin. And as each of their 16 shadows enveloped you, you've only gotten step by step closer to having your body being taken over by Dormin. You've been playing right into the hands of a god of life and death, and once you've defeated all the Colossi, you've ended up releasing Dormin from their captivity. All of this starts to make you believe by the end of the game that you've been the villain of the story the whole time. But there's such a vague and mysterious nature to the way all this is presented that even that is up for debate. A fundamental theme to all of Team Ico's games is light and darkness, yin and yang. This is not strictly a story of good and evil, but light and dark. Both are two sides of the same coin, and a piece of each side is always within the other. For instance, Dormin, despite looking like a shadowy devil in the final scene, is represented by a heavenly light for most of the game. At first, the ending might make you feel like they're a deceptive being, but all that Dormin promised you actually does come true in the end, and you did agree to the terms of your deal knowing that there would be consequences. We never actually get to see Dormin do anything truly evil, and most of what paints them that way is the other people from your village who come to stop you at the end. As they come to stop you from freeing Dormin, they seem to be in the right as they are trying to stop you from being taken over by an entity that ends up literally looking like the devil. However, whether these people are purely good is also ambiguous, as they actually might be the ones who sacrificed Mono in the first place. I'll discuss the events of the ending a little more later on, but this ambiguity in who is right and wrong is a key component as to why the game is so widely analyzed. Everything is so open to interpretation, but one thing is for certain though, Team Ico gives you plenty of downtime to ponder this ambiguity intentionally. As you wander through these vast forbidden lands, you could easily come out with a different interpretation of the events with each playthrough, and each player will uncover unique interpretations that resonate personally with them. And that is what makes Shadow of the Colossus so engrossing and why people spend so much time trying to decipher all of what this story and this massive world mean. Their determination to uncover the mysteries of this massive world are reflected well in the main character Wander, who looks at similarly massive, daunting tasks with an undying will to take them on no matter the cost. Wander's determination can be read as a cautionary tale of being overly obsessed with a goal and how that determination can lead you to be easily manipulated, even to kill, and how that can cause consequences that last generations. Wander's obsessions seem to strike a chord with many players, with this game sparking the determination in some players to create some of the most detailed thematic interpretation online of any game. One could interpret this endless theory crafting about this world and its lore as an unhealthy obsession in some cases. Some people giving themselves over so completely to getting lost in these forbidden lands that they get to the point of evoking a religious devotion to the game. All the while, the themes of Shadow of the Colossus can easily be read as a cautionary tale against that kind of behavior. However, a more optimistic view would say that even though some get lost within escapist worlds and end up in isolation, some others use this determination to examine the deepest parts of art and derive meaningful lessons. Some also create their own art about the media they love and form communities around those works that they enjoy. Like the game itself, how you view all this is left up to your interpretation. After all, Wander's determination does end up bringing Mono back to life, and also returns life to the Forbidden Lands. So nothing about the themes of Shadow of the Colossus should really be read in black and white terms. Another theme with a lot of room for interpretation is the theme of sacrifice. Team Ico definitely has a fixation on this theme in all of their games, and it's a big part of what connects Shadow of the Colossus to the game the developers had made previously, Ico. In Shadow of the Colossus, the theme of sacrifice most obviously presents itself with the sacrifice of Mano. But this theme is also apparent in subtle clues in the environment that have led many people to theorize that the Forbidden Lands are the remnants of a society that was fixated on sacrificing people to Dormin, either to give life to the dead as Wander does, or for the use of other magic. Lord Amon and their followers can be viewed as a part of a counter-movement to this human sacrifice-centered culture. Given their knowledge of the Forbidden Lands and their drive to stop the release of Dormin, it's likely that they played a part in ending the society that formerly inhabited these Forbidden Lands, sealing away Dormin and splitting their power into the 16 colossi you encounter during the game. However, in Lord Amon's efforts to take down the society and seal its power away forever, they inadvertently perpetuated a cycle of violence that benefits this god of life and death. Because in their conviction to stop Dormin and the society built around human sacrifice, they in turn became a society that would sacrifice humans themselves. It's theorized by many fans that Lord Amon is responsible for the sacrifice of Mano, which is said to have been done because of her cursed fate. I believe this is a reference to Mano's connection to the plot of Ico. I think Mano's cursed fate is that she, or at least a descendant of her, will become the villain in Ico, the Queen. The Queen has similar, potentially dangerous powers dependent on human sacrifice like Dormin, and Lord Amon and their group will go to great lengths to put an end to the use of these kinds of powers. So Lord Amon sacrifices Mano, trying to prevent this cursed fate that will take place in Ico. However, this sacrifice is ironically what propels Wander to travel to the Forbidden Lands and release Dormin from its captivity in the first place. And in a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, this is also what leads to the tragic cycle of violence continuing in the world of Ico. You might not notice the ambiguity of Lord Amon's actions or their connection to Ico on your first playthrough though. This is because Lord Amon's dialogue paints themselves as entirely just, as there's no one there to really respond to their claim to righteousness. However, on closer inspection, their actions can be seen to be just as morally ambiguous as Wander's. The most obvious example that shows a parallel in the two characters' actions is when Lord Amon commands Wander to be shot with an arrow and then has them stabbed right in the center of a symbol that is similar to those found on the Colossi. Like Wander's actions, Lord Amon's violence has unintended consequences. After Wander is stabbed, Dormin is able to fully take over Wander. Lord Amon and the others then rush to defeat them, attacking this shadowy being immediately. You're given control of this massive being, which is used to evoke even more empathy for the Colossus you've killed on the way here. You now get to see their perspective of being powerless to defeat humans firsthand. In your inevitable defeat, your body will start to wither and be pulled away as you continue to desperately cling to that determination to save Mano. However, no matter what you do, you can't avoid being sealed away by Lord Amon. This whole scene is kind of an ironic twist because Lord Amon, who came to stop Wander defeating the Colossus, has had to commit a very similar violent act on a Colossus-like being to do so. In this attempt to once again seal away Dormin forever, Lord Amon, who thinks of Dormin as a god of death and evil, has forgotten that Dormin is also a god of life. Instead of being sealed away forever, out of the purifying waters of the Shrine of Worship, Wander, who's now joined with Dormin to some degree, is reborn as a baby with horns. At the same time, life begins to return to the Forbidden Lands and Mano is brought back from the dead. This could imply that Dormin wasn't such a shady figure after all. Depending on how their power was used, it could have brought life or death, and the fact that they did actually bring Mano back to life paints them as less maliciously manipulative than they may have seemed before. So it begs the question, was Wander actually doing the right thing in the end of it all? This ending scene might not be as optimistic as it may seem though, because of what we know about the future in Ico. During the events of Ico, many kids are now born with horns and very likely are descended from this baby with horns that we just saw and have some sort of connection to Dormin's power. In Ico, the horned children are being sacrificed to a being with similar powers to Dormin, the Queen. This connection between the two games is a poignant critique of how a cycle of violence can only perpetuate itself if you try to put an end to that cycle with more violence. So Lord Amon's sacrifice of Mano in an attempt to prevent the events of Ico ends up actually being the reason why they occur in the first place. Mano being brought back through Dormin's power may have been the whole reason why she became a being like the Queen. In the end, this all drives home the message that human sacrifice will never be the answer to stopping a being who can derive power from sacrifice. This theme of sacrifice also thematically connects Dormin and the Queen to be seen as a parallel for people in power in the real world. These beings manipulate people to enact their will and sacrifice themselves or others. Sometimes they use people's fear to manipulate them, and sometimes they use people's desires. The power these beings have is kind of a self-perpetuating cycle where the more power they're given through sacrifice, the more that they're able to manipulate more people. Similarly, people in power's control over society is based on manipulating people to enact their will. While banding people together under the will of one person can have the potential to be used for good when it's used less manipulatively, in our current society there's a very prevalent cycle of suffering being perpetuated through this means of gaining power. The power that people in the real world have is not always given to them through literal human sacrifices, such as sending the people you control to war or something like that. However, their power does always hinge on people giving over control of their own life to some degree. The more people do this, the less themselves they become, and the more their actions perpetuate the cycle of control that they themselves are also trapped in. Shadow of the Colossus makes you feel like you've been manipulated like this to perpetuate a cycle of suffering firsthand through your actions and gameplay. It begs you to question why and how you were controlled like this, and leaves you at the end of the game with plenty of options to incentivize a second playthrough. It entices you to experience this story again, but this time with your own interpretation of events guiding you, and not the forces that tried to shape your view of events the first time through. Experiencing these themes in a way exclusive to an interactive medium is why the messages of the game stick with you so much, and it's what leads many people to ponder the game long after they've played and replayed it. As you continue to replay and think about Shadow of the Colossus, you can find yourself exploring the meaning of the story through many other lenses. You can look at the events through a lens of these games' portrayal of religions, as a message of environmentalism, or in their relation to Japanese culture, and so on and so forth. The fact that all these story details, themes, and limitless interpretations can be derived from Team Ico's games, which granted have only about 15 minutes of dialogue each, is a testament to the mastery Team Ico has over storytelling that uses the unique strengths of video games to their fullest. Shadow of the Colossus is a story that has to be experienced, and that's what makes it so special. For all I've gone on about what this game means in my eyes, you could walk away with a completely different view, and hey, why not share that view in the comments here? I've been thinking about doing a video exploring Ico in more depth, so let me know if you want to see that, and please let me know any other kinds of games you'd like to see covered on the channel too. Anyways, that's all I have to say, so thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.